This is a pretty good crowd for Monday before Thanksgiving, so we're glad everybody's
pleasantly
here.
surprised.
Yeah. So we have long-timers, we have newcomers. I'm Jeremy Moss, state senator for our area, joined with state representatives Jason Hoskins, who's walking in, Samantha Steckloff, and Natalie Price. We represent the area, Southfield, Lathrop, Bloomfield, just a whole bunch of communities if you add all of our districts together. I go up to Pontiac, I go south to Detroit, so we have a great district. And this is kind of a monthly opportunity for us to talk about what's going on in Lansing, how it impacts us back home, questions that you might have, bill ideas you might have, constituent questions you might have. We have some stuff that we'll chat about, but really, this could be more of an open forum. Since we had our last session at the end of October, it's been slow. I mean, the budget was the main thing, and we passed the budget, and we talked at length about it last session, and I know Rep. Steckloff is going to do a whole budget presentation. Will you invite us to it?
Absolutely.
Is it going to be here? Is it going to be at one of these things? Or?
I was going to do it here and in Bloomfield.
Okay, great. So you'll have a whole budget presentation soon. Yeah. When you got in the room, you were passed out this. This is nonpartisan and this is unbiased. You can't advocate one way or another. So this goes through each of the ballot proposals and it says the summary of each ballot proposal. These are all out in the field. They have to collect sufficient signatures to be on our ballot. So none of these are actually on our ballot yet, but here are ones that if you get approached by folks circulating petitions, this is literally just the summary. This is a very helpful, non-biased, unopinionated resource. Now I have opinions, but this is a helpful guide for you. We'll talk about ballot proposals in a second. But why don't we go down the line? Jason, we can start with you about any interesting nuggets or tidbits you want to open up with.
Sure. Good evening, everyone. Well, we certainly have been, I like to think of our time this term, not quite as productive, unfortunately. But we still, I know we collectively are still working hard for you, trying to be responsive to what our districts need. And so I know I've been working on a bunch of legislation, some of it myself, some of it with Senator Moss, for example, really responding to a lot of what we've been hearing, certainly from folks on the ground, as well as with some of the elected officials here in the area. I know, for example, the city of Southfield have brought to us a number of things that they are concerned about. And one of the things that they brought to me, actually it was from the Southfield City Treasurer, Irv Lowenberg, something very simple, a small thing of allowing people to be able to defer their taxes from like summer to winter. And this is like a very small thing, but like can make a huge difference in a lot of people's lives, because this is something that impacts people who are veterans, who are seniors, who have disabilities, and you have to be making, currently, you have to be making less than $40,000 a year. And so if you are on a fixed, and this hasn't been tied to inflation or anything, so this was last changed in the early 2000s, when $40,000 went a little longer. But now, that is that's tough for a lot of people. And if you are receiving some sort of benefit and they haven't come when your summer taxes are due, you're in a tough position of being able to possibly missing your payment, getting penalties. And so I talked to the city treasurer. He said there's actually a good population of people who are being impacted by this. And if you just raised it and then tied into inflation, it would help a lot of people. So I introduced legislation to do that, and it's going to raise it to $60,000 because my office, we put in to an inflation calculator what $40,000 will be now, and that's what it came out to be, and we're going to tie it to inflation. Common sense, simple, helps a lot of people who really need the benefit. and hoping that it got introduced to one of my committees. It got introduced and referred to one of my committees. I serve on the committee on finance, which is our taxing committee, basically. Hopefully I get a hearing soon, and we'll be able to help a lot of people. But you know, it's just common sense things that we're working on to help people. Another thing that we're working on is something called a work opportunity tax credit. This is something I've been working on with one of my colleagues on the other side of the aisle. His name is Representative Matthew Beerline. And this is a tax credit that helps businesses hire certain targeted populations. These are populations that it is, quite frankly, difficult to train and be able to get into positions of work. I'm thinking of veterans. We're going back to veterans again. Veterans, particularly those with disabilities. Anyone with a disability, people who are returning citizens, people who've been out of work long term, and long term is more than 27 weeks. People who are receiving certain benefits, like if you're receiving SNAP benefits, for example. This is a tax credit that allows a business to hire you, maybe do more training because you need more training to be able to be in certain workspaces. And this is something that actually already happens at the federal level, and we're just doing a credit to match it here in Michigan. It has a very high return on investment. For every dollar that's invested by the business, you usually get either $1.20 to $2 back into the local economy. You know, again, something that we're hoping I think is common sense, bipartisan, something that we think could help a lot of people too, as people are trying to get back into the workforce. I had a very interesting meeting earlier today with Gesher Human Services. Fantastic organization in Southfield that really works with this population. And I was telling them about this, and they were ecstatic because they help so many of these groups. They work with Michigan Works to make sure people have jobs. They work with people with any kind of mental disabilities to be able to find work, be able to have a life that I think we all will want to have. And so these are things that we're hearing from our communities. And so it's something I'm really happy to work on. I think will help a lot of people in our state. So that's my little spiel. Those are my things.
I really like that idea.
You want to take questions or?
Sure.
I'm just wondering if this is, will it be retroactive or anything for people that already would perhaps qualify? Or is this just moving forward?
Yeah, it'll be a moving forward.
Gotcha. Okay. Good job. Good job. Good job reaching across the aisle.
Yeah, that's what you have to do in this climate.
We're in that world nowadays where we have to be bipartisan on
That's how
many
it should
things.
be. All right.
What you got?
Represent 19th District, Sam Steckloff, Farmington Hills, Southfield Township, Birmingham, and Bloomfield. Since the last time we chatted, we have made we've been moving forward on a lot of things. As you know, I serve on appropriations. Representative Price and I serve on all appropriations committees. So one of the things that we worked on last term as Chair of Higher Education, the Michigan Achievement Scholarship. So that is up to $5,500. If you go to a four-year institution, $5,500 per year in a scholarship. 70% of Michiganders do qualify for this. It is income-based, but the threshold is pretty high. We are going to be moving that into statute, so that'll be coming up very soon. So for the foreseeable future, this scholarship will survive. Definitely something that we've been concerned about, trying to lower the age of our Reconnect program to 21. So that's for people who for people who don't necessarily have a college degree or an associate's degree. So this allows them to go to school for those, to go to community college for free over the age of 21. As you know, community college for all was came into play last term, but it still has to be a graduating senior. So this is a way to pick up some of those students through Reconnect. Some of the bills I've been working on personally, we just got our nuclear energy, a bipartisan package through the House, so that'll be heading to the Senate. My part of that package is to make sure that people have the skills necessary to go into this field. So scholarships at our higher ed institutions, they're good paying jobs, a lot of that kind of professional programming. I finally was able to drop a bill that I've spoken about to you all for a very long time. It's a 4-bill package, bipartisan. It's that predatory towing package. So working with the towers is definitely something that I did not experience anything like that before. Been working with the towers since September of 24, trying to get that language, so we're starting to move forward. This is to make sure that people are not getting raked through the coals on those fees. We've seen time and time again, towers will listen to police scanners, will get there before the police towers get there and are charging an exorbitant fee. A lot of times they will only accept cash. If you don't have your registration on you, if it's in the car, they'll make you go to Secretary of State, get your registration, and come back, which usually comes at a few $1,000s more because of the storage fees. So this goes after those predatory towers as well as those body shops. Huge issue in Detroit that we're trying to work with. We have a lot of people on board with this. We've seen bills anywhere from $8,000, and recently we just got one that was $50,000 of a vehicle that was repossessed. So working on that bill. 2 other bills that were just introduced is lowering the age of mammograms to 35. We're seeing many more people getting diagnosed under the age of 40. And now that we have the technology for dense breast tissue to be able to do that, so lowering the age to 35. I want it to 30, but the health insurance companies already said no. Raising the age of pap smears. Right now, typically if you're over the age of 60, your health insurance will not cover that. And 25% of cervical cancers happen in women over the age of 60. And then also lowering the age of colonoscopies to 35, covered by your insurance, because we're seeing colon cancer become more prevalent with people in their 30s. So those are some of the bills that were recently introduced since the last time we met. Yes?
Can you educate me when you say, but the health insurance company said no? What does that mean? How does that materialize?
That's a great question, Alvin. So when we get bills through, we try and get as little opposition as possible. And that is because it's very hard to get the votes to pass something if you have these big entities against that. And the health insurance companies are very powerful. One of the reasons we were able to get oral chemo parity through after 15 years is because I got the health insurance companies to get on board. So I'm working with them. I think I can get 35 and older. It's anything lower than that is going to be a huge challenge. So right now, 35 seems to be the sweet spot.
So if I'm one of the people in this health insurance company group, and I'm supporting you or opposing you, like materially, what does that look like in real life? Is it like ads? Is it campaigning against you?
More lobbying.
What does it mean?
So they'll contact every chair of a committee. So they'll contact the health policy chair and be like, don't bring this up. They'll contact the speaker and say, don't bring this up. So a lot of the bills we work on, and some of the reasons they're watered down a little, is because of the opposition. And opposition doesn't necessarily mean the other party. A lot of times it has to do with these huge entities. So you do what you can do. I've been fighting them on this for 5 years already. And I think I finally got them into a spot where I can get 35 and older. Trust me, 31 years old, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. I would love to do it lower and lower, but this is what I think we can get through the legislature.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Like the towers right now, they are like a mafia organization. I'm gonna tell you that right now. If you have any towers in here, I would love to speak with you. Yeah, it's aggressive. So we are working with them to see what we can get them on board for. We already have a committee ready to go. We're ready to bring it on. We have a ton of co-sponsors. So sometimes you also bring them in to say, listen, this is gonna go through the House. You either get on board and tell me what you need and tell me what your issues are, or it's gonna go through as is. So I've been trying to meet with them. We've had all these meetings met up for well over a year. They keep telling me they're gonna give me language. and they haven't. So eventually,
Who's they,
the towers, so the association. So I don't know if they thought like I'd give it up. I don't think they know me very well. So what I did is instead is I got like 5 more firms involved. I brought in like 2 more bill sponsors. So it's a very, very important issue. But I didn't realize they were that way.
Sometimes it's pretty corrupt on the city level. I'll put you in touch with a friend of mine that basically that was his issue to be elected to council
In Macomb County, there was a huge scandal
Yeah.
dealing with
Well,
towing.
it happens everywhere.
It
Everywhere.
does, but a few years ago, there were a lot of indictments and
$8,000 bill
whatnot.
because you had a front-end
Yeah.
collision and your antifreeze goes on the ground, the next thing you know, you're basically having a hazardous waste hazmat group that interesting enough works for the towing company. And
I
it's
just received a
really-
letter from Pete Lucido about how he's against these bills. I'm like, bro, I don't even know you, but you think that's gonna help? Like, I have a Dem Senate. You think Pete Lucido against something's gonna help you? But every rep who has come from like a local government has a story. We have some sheriffs who have a story. They're trying to rewrite the towing bills. There was just a huge article that came out over was it Friday? Friday came out with this huge article that talks, it's a towing company in the city of Detroit, and the message was, go after them no matter what. And they actually had a contract with the city. So,
Well, that's-
yes.
that's how that's why you gotta.
So we're looking at them all.
Check the council level.
Yeah.
But that, I'll get with you afterwards.
Yeah, let's
Put you
chat.
in touch with the guy that got
It
elected
doesn't
to
help
council.
that the Detroit police commissioner was one of the people that got his car towed, and they wouldn't give it back to him, and it was a half-a-mile tow, and they charged him like $900, and apparently he has it all on video, so.
I had a towing issue after my accident that
Oh,
was
yeah.
very aggravating to deal with that I will tell you about, so.
Well, good news is, I think my bills are
You're
covered
not
for
wearing
me.
your assemblage.
Yeah, what's that?
Feeling better?
I can move my arm again, it's, but we're still a long way to full recovery, but yeah, yeah. What are you working on?
Yeah, so I do have a few packages of bills that have some bipartisan support, but actually I was just telling Senator Moss, I think I want to spend my time today talking about something a little more fundamental, and partly to answer this question about like, what does it mean for a big stakeholder to be opposed? How could one group like cut something or determine whether or not we take something up? Right now, while we're in the minority, Michigan House Dems, so those of us who are state reps, our caucus is trying to use our time in minority to really kind of reinvent how we set our policy priorities, our agenda. We're going through a process called the Michigan House Dems Vision Project. And this is, we're working with the States Project, which is a national organization that works with Democratic caucuses to do more collaborative agenda setting. What is our agenda? Our agenda as a caucus is what we say we will do when we get the gavels back. So the goal is right now as Michigan House Democrats to clearly say, this is who we are, this is what we stand for, and this is what we will do when we come back with the gavels and we get to set the agenda. Because right now it's the Republican speaker who decides what votes go up on the board. We are hopeful that by working with our constituents and our partner stakeholder groups that represent constituents, that we will be able to come up with a compelling policy that is shaped by the voters, by constituents, rather than just the stakeholders that have the most resources and influence and lobbyists in Lansing. And there's an ask involved, and this is, again, a stateside legislative ask, so I get to do it here. But it's for you to go to our website, Michigan House Dems, and look for the link for the Vision Project. We have a survey that we are asking all of our constituents, anybody who lives in Michigan, to fill out. You'll see at the top of the survey our vision, our statement of who we are and what we stand for. You'll be asked how much that statement resonates with you. And you'll be asked to share your stories about how you, your family, your neighbors are personally impacted by the issues that we as Democrats say that we care about. So we, all 51 members of our caucus, we filled out a survey early on and identified that all of us believe that 5 things are important. And those 5 things are affordability, public education, healthcare, the environment, and then labor and workforce issues. And then we put out a statement saying these are our values. Do these resonate with you? Do you agree these are important? How are your lives shaped or impacted by these values? Right now we're collecting all of those results, and we're gonna see the kind of the first outcome of this at our retreat, our caucus retreat in the middle of December. We're going to be going through each of these buckets and look at the policies that the members of our caucus and our constituents and some of the partner stakeholders believe would resonate and make a difference. And there are criteria that we're using to evaluate that. So we have to make the case, will this help improve the lives of people if we take this on and change it? Is this strategic? Will this help Michiganders and our caucus? And is this economic? Can we afford to do it? Or if not, where would we get the funding to do this thing that we think is a good idea? So we're posing those policies, we're collecting them, and our agenda will be stronger if we hear from more constituents.
Yeah.
So, anything else that the other reps want to say about the vision project?
No, I just think it's a great idea. When we received the trifecta 2 years ago, it was kind of like 40 years of pent-up legislation that we were trying to get through. But with 56 members, you needed to get all 56 members' votes. And you've all heard the trauma about lame ducks. So to avoid that situation, we're working, and actually Rep. Price is leading at this, working really diligently to make sure that we have our top priorities set and ready to go, that everyone has had input on. And please, if you do have ideas, you can go to our House Dems page and fill out it's called the Visions Project. I do have some printed off copies that I can bring with me at the next meeting if anyone is having difficulty online. But that it's a really, really important and strategically done, and thank you, Rep. Price, for putting this together.
And it's worked in other states. So the States Project has done this process with Democratic caucuses in Virginia, Arizona. Minnesota is one of the main ones. It was kind of the first group to do this. They called it the Minnesota Values Project. But they used their time and majority to clearly articulate their collaborative vision and their policy agenda. And then when they got the gavels back, they spent their first 100 days doing everything that they promised they would to improve the lives of their voters. So it really shifts the power dynamics in Lansing when everybody knows that it's the voices of our constituents that are more important than the loudest lobbyists. That's what we're trying to achieve here, and we can only do it with your help. So please fill out the survey and share it. Anybody in Michigan, whether you have a Democratic rep or senator or not, we need to hear your results. Whether you identify as Democrat or not, it doesn't matter. We need to hear what you care about as a constituent, what you need from us to make your lives better.
Questions? All right, let's talk about ballot proposals. I kind of saved stuff I'm working on for last. So some of you got this sheet when you walked in. This is really helpful. Again, this is not biased. This is strictly the summary of what is out in the field that folks are collecting signatures for. I think it's important to kind of even talk about what is a ballot proposal. So there are a few different things that could appear on our ballot, but the two main things that typically people put out in the field and collect signatures for are a change to the Michigan Constitution or a public initiated law. So let's talk about the first thing. Any change to the Michigan Constitution requires a vote of the public. No, we cannot change the Constitution from the legislature. Now there are two ways to get something on the ballot to bring to a vote of the public. We can put something on the ballot. It would require 2/3 vote both in the House and Senate, so not just a straight majority, but a supermajority of the legislature to agree to put it on the ballot. Or you can change the Constitution and put something on the ballot. If there's something that you want to put in there, something you want to change, I think probably the biggest efforts over the last few years were in 2022, after Roe versus Wade was struck down. There was a ballot proposal to affirm reproductive freedom in our Constitution so that it could not be changed by lawmakers. That was circulated out in the field, it got on the ballot, it overwhelmingly passed. Or in 2018, there was a big effort to create a redistricting commission, a citizen-led commission that redraws the lines rather than legislature. Voters, not politicians, formed, they put signatures out in the field, petitions out in the field, changed our Constitution so that we cannot uncreate, we cannot, you hear about this redistricting fight state by state, we can't do anything about it. We have a citizen-led commission in our Constitution. The second thing that has been on the ballot in the past are initiated law. So when Jason or Natalie or Sam talk about the bills that they're introducing, we have the ability to write a law and go through the process and go through committee hearings and have it pass in the House and hopefully pass in the Senate and hopefully have the governor sign it. But many of you may not be aware that you can write a law. You have to get a lot of signatures in order to get it on the ballot. But there is a process by which you can write a law that then comes to the legislature, and the legislature can either pass it or the legislature can put it on the ballot. The marijuana proposal from 2018 that legalized and put the framework for how to regulate over recreational marijuana started off as an initiated law. It was not our Constitution, but it was a law that folks wrote and they got the signatures, and in 2018 that also passed. The legislature made the decision to put it on the ballot rather than take it up ourselves. And if that initiated law should ever be changed by the legislature, because it was a vote of the public, it requires 3/4 of the legislature to change an initiated law. So right now, just to give you an example, we're looking to expand and refine our marijuana law here in the state of Michigan, and anytime we dive into that and change that Marijuana Act, it requires a 3/4 vote of the legislature because that act was created by a ballot proposal.
How does the tax fit into that? Wasn't that more or less an
That's in court now. That's
Going to
actually
court.
going to court on
Yeah.
whether or not it was lawful for the legislature to change that by majority.
Wasn't the medical cannabis provision 10 years earlier also a ballot initiative?
That was also a ballot initiative in 2008.
So how is that initiative going to stand in the face of what the federal government has just decided relative to their decisions about hemp versus cannabis?
Well, nothing's been challenged about our medical marijuana act or our recreational marijuana act due to federal changes. So it remains to be seen. Nothing's been challenged.
Stay tuned.
Yeah, stay tuned. So most of these, some of these are constitutional amendments, some of these are initiated law. I actually don't know what's what. But actually it says right here, constitutional amendment, an initiative. Number 3 would be an initiative. Number 4, constitutional amendment. Number 5, constitutional amendment. Number 6, a referendum. So it's actually repealing a legislative law. So the reason I bring all this up is because you're gonna be overwhelmed. You may have been already by people collecting petitions and basically sticking a clipboard in your face and telling you this, this is for, rainbows and sunshine, or this is to prevent hurricanes and tornadoes. They'll say the most glowing thing about their initiative, or they'll say the most unglowing thing about the problem that they're trying to solve. It is so important for you to read every petition that is before you sign it. And each petition should have this summary that's approved by the Board of Canvassers on it. So you can read what is on the ballot proposal. Year after year, we have heard stories of people who will circulate a petition and they say the exact opposite thing of what their petition does. Michigan law does not require a petition circulator, to tell you the truth. And there are a lot of gaps in the law that sometimes even incentivize people to lie to you to get your signature. So for many, many years, I have worked on legislation big and small to add safeguards to the petition process here in the state of Michigan. I had a legislative director who did a ton of research when I was served in the State House. He's at the end of the table here. And we went state by state, what are the best practices that other states, which is constitutional, we have to protect free speech, but we also have to protect the integrity of our ballot proposal system. So we came up with many proposals, but finally kind of narrowed it down to 2 bills that I sponsored that actually passed the Senate last week or 2 weeks ago with bipartisan support. Not a lot of bipartisan support, but bipartisan support. It is now before the House. And it does 2 things. Number 1, it prevents ballot organizers from paying petition circulators for every signature that they collect. And that's literally right on the top here. Many circulators are paid by how many signatures they collect. That is a financial incentive for a bad actor to say anything and do anything to get you to sign on. Because if they get more and more money based on how many of you are going to sign on, then they will probably, a lot of the circulators do the right thing and know their ballot proposal, but some bad actors will continue to say anything and do anything because your signature is money to them. There are about 20-something states that have a ballot proposal process by which they circulate petitions and put things on their ballot, and about 12 of them ban paying per signature. And it's red states and blue states, Oregon and Oklahoma alike, ban this payment scheme. Now you can still pay somebody a flat rate, you can pay somebody hourly. We're not trying to not allow folks to get paid in this space, but that specific scheme of paying per signature has produced so many problems. Both on people lying to you, so saying that their proposal does one thing but it actually does another, but also candidates need to get signatures. If you're running for governor or if you're running for Congress, you need to get signatures. There have been candidates that have been defrauded because some of their circulators will just make up signatures, literally fake signatures, and some candidates have been kicked off the ballot, Democrats and Republicans alike, because by the time they turned in their signatures, maybe they didn't do their due diligence and they were challenged, and it turns out the petition circulator was lying, was just adding more and more fake signatures onto the petition in order to get more and more money. And so it is long past time that Michigan gets out of the game and joins all of these other states across the country that does not allow payment per signature. It is ripe for abuse. It has been abused elsewhere. It has been abused in Michigan. So this passed, my committee, this passed out of the Senate with a bipartisan vote, and it goes towards the House for further action. We're going to try and push this. The second bill that I sponsored actually requires a petition circulator to know your right, that you have a right to read the summary before you sign on. Whether orally they tell you, would you can read this, or they read it to you. And they can read it line by line, and they have to. It would basically penalize a ballot proposal committee if a petition circulator does not do this. So the training, the onus, the requirement is on the committee to train their circulators to know that if you're collecting a signature, I have to read that this is a statutory initiative to ban utility companies and any corporate, all that language, instead of just coming up with a summary that may twist what the ballot proposal actually does. Or they have to direct you, you have to read it right here. So many people put a clipboard in your face and don't even tell you that the summary's on the clipboard itself. So direct you to say, here's the summary, I implore you to read this before you sign on. So those are some safeguards that we've added as a bill, and we're trying to get this signed into law. But it is also a very important reminder for all of you, read every proposal. This language of the summary should be on every petition sheet that comes before you. You should read it before you just take blanket fact that somebody's telling you the truth about what their ballot proposal does.
Will petitions ever be put online?
Probably not.
Okay.
Probably not. We're far away from an online petition and an online voting system. We love our paper trails here in Michigan. It's valuable. So I would say probably not. Yeah.
Is there any, I'm very much in favor of this as someone who has seen petition circulators just flat out lie to me about what their petition actually does, is there any enforcement mechanism for like making sure that this actually happens?
Yeah, I mean, there's a
I've
few
seen
things.
people, like, take videos of them, of people lying to them, and like nothing happens, because right now it's not required by law, but like, if it is, who's gonna make sure?
That's exactly right. So obviously, you would have to submit evidence that somebody didn't, paying per signature is just flat out, you're not able to pay them by signature. But talking about the folks who will either lie to you or not direct you, basically, to read the summary. When we first started working on this in like 2016, 2017, I had this question asked of me. Well, now it's 2025, everybody's recording everybody, right? And so yeah, you would be able to submit evidence that somebody did not follow the law, that somebody did not read the summary or direct you to read the summary before signing on. I will tell you, in Ohio, they have a similar law. The penalty is like a felony. We are not creating a new felony here. We are fining the ballot proposal committee. We don't, there's enough crimes out there. There's enough, criminal laws out there. We don't want to add one more felony out there. So Ohio goes to the extreme. So there's another state that really, really criminalizes it. But we would fine the ballot proposal committee if there is evidence that one of their circulators is not reading or directing you to read. Basically, it puts the onus on the ballot proposal committee to properly train their petition circulators. It does not require you to be a master. It does not of the law. It does not require you to be, fluent. You should be able to say, I don't know. You can go to the website with more information. But at baseline, we should require petition circulators to at least read the proposal or direct you to read the proposal that's right in front of you. Yeah.
Follow-up question, what do those fines look like? Because like Americans for Citizen Voting has $3.5+ million right now on hand. So like for them, if the fine isn't substantial, they could just.
I'll have to get you what the fine schematic is. It's based on how many violations, and it increases and increases and increases over time. Yeah. Any other questions?
Not just, okay, you've had this many fines this year, and it goes back to zero the
It's
next
per
year.
instance. It's per instance.
And there's no cutoff on years.
So typically a ballot proposal is in the field for 180 days. So during that 180-day period, if you have several violations and they add up, your fines will add up. And people will know. I mean, it will be published that this ballot. It will be published that this ballot proposal, is engaging in deceptive tactics. So we don't want to create another felony out of this, but we did have to hold folks accountable for how circulation goes. How we want to restore integrity to the ballot circulation process in Michigan. So I'll say the third time. Read every ballot proposal that comes before you, because time and time again we hear from folks that they were deceived or they signed something that they should not have signed, and maybe they didn't agree with it. And once you sign it, you'd have to contact the ballot proposal committee to cross off your name, and that's that's up to their discretion whether or not they do that before they submit their petitions. All right, anything else? I guess we could take questions.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of the things that we've been working on. Again, it's slow in the legislature. We're still not used to this a Republican-led House and a Democratic-led Senate working together. It's been challenging. The budget was challenging enough, but now even passing normal bills through the normal process is challenging.
Yeah, you would think anything that was passed out of either chamber unanimously would be like.
I have 2 bills that are sitting in the House that passed unanimously in February and have not been taken up by the House. Every Republican, every Democrat in the Senate voted for it, and it still hasn't been taken up in the House. So even things like that are getting caught in the crossfire. We'll come here, then we'll come back to Gilman.
Lathrop Village right now, so I'm from Lathrop, and Lathrop right now is, city council is talking about, we may not be able to pay for Southfield Library anymore. It's $190,000 because the Headley Act was voted down. Is there anything, by the state level, by the county level, we might not have a library anymore? We'll be able to come here, obviously, but we won't be able to check out.
We will look into that, because this is actually the first time hearing of
Yeah,
this, so
same
I
here.
appreciate you bringing this to our attention. So Jason and I both represent Lathrop Village, we
Yeah.
will have to check with the city administration on this, and figure out what are the next steps.
Yeah, because they're talking about it right now, right this second actually, cost cutting.
Yeah, I bet that would be unpopular. I would hope that would be unpopular.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, yeah, no, we'll follow up with that. You're the first person to let me know.
Oh,
So
okay, thank
Jason
you.
and I
Yeah.
represent the city of
Yeah.
Lathrop Village,
Yeah.
and we'll follow up.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
What's the status of the revenue sharing trust fund?
Yeah, so, I don't know, I'm trying to figure out how much I wanna talk about,
We just
how
looked at
far
you,
back, how
so-
far back I wanna talk about this. So, big picture, revenue sharing, feels like a government term. What it is the tax dollars that you pay to Lansing should come back home to our communities. There's a constitutional formula, so again, locked in our constitution, that is basically our sales tax. Part of our sales tax goes towards local communities, so that is protected, should be protected. And then there is statutory revenue sharing, it's a state law. And so each year in our budget, we come up with a formula in our budget of how much communities are gonna get. For 20 years, from like, the late 90s to the mid 2010s, we were doing a terrible job, let me rephrase that. They were doing a terrible job of funding our communities and really balancing Lansing's books on the backs of communities at home. And there was a graph that the Michigan Municipal League, which is the Association of Cities, came up with, and it ranked how each of the 50 states funds its local government. And on the one end is like Hawaii, and Hawaii gives a lot of money to its local governments. And from there, the chart goes down until you get to the access, and then just below the access was Michigan. Because we were taking money away from local governments. And you scratch your head and you wonder why crises like Flint happened. It's because Flint was in default for many reasons. Among them was it was not receiving the same level of revenue sharing as its debts were. And so it defaulted because revenue sharing did not remain a constant. And obviously the Flint water crisis came about due to emergency management that was supposed to save the city but created worse problems. So you look at a lot of communities that are struggling, it's because Lansing was defunding them of their ability to pay for police and fire and local roads and all that. So I come to Lansing, I came to Lansing with this charge of making communities whole. And I started a caucus of former local officials, so people who served on city councils. We created a caucus. It's Republicans, it's Democrats, it's House members, it's senators. Every single person you're looking at right now served on a city council. So we understand balancing our books at home every year without knowing what Lansing was gonna provide. So we created what we called a revenue sharing trust fund. A fund that literally no other cause could rate it, so that revenue sharing could be predictable, and each year communities would know how much they were getting and how much they could survive upon, based on what Lansing was gonna provide to them for their budget. So
You should mention the budget deadline.
exactly. So a local community has to pass its budget by June 30th for the fiscal year that starts July 1. Lansing doesn't have to pass its budget until September 30th for the fiscal year that starts October 1st. So for many years, we engaged in the good practice of passing a budget by June 30th so that local communities could know what's coming in revenue sharing. We're leaving this hole for state funding. We should know by the time we pass our local budget what is going to be in that pot. Obviously, we didn't even pass a budget by September 30th, let alone June 30th. So that's very challenging for local communities. So I advocated, and I think everybody up here has advocated for a predictable, steady stream of revenue, so we don't get into this fight every year. Will it be there? Won't it be there? Will it be there by June 30th? Won't it be there by June 30th? So revenue sharing was a big topic of discussion, and it was kind of a hybrid. There was a competing plan that also came from good intentions, called the Public Safety Trust Fund. So it's revenue sharing, but just for public safety.
Oh, we
Now-
talked about this, I didn't realize that's what it was competing with.
It was competing against that. Revenue sharing, you know, when I was on the city council, and probably the same experience of the folks up here, the most pressing needs were public safety and local roads. So if we got more money from Lansing each year than we expected, we would put it into local roads and public safety. What the competing plan said was just public safety. So it took an unrestricted dollar and made it a restricted dollar. And it was only based on the formula based on your crime rate. So in a weird sort of way, it kind of incentivizes crime or crime stats
No, it's true.
or arrests, because the more arrests you make, the more money you're gonna get from the
And police
state
headcount,
to
yeah.
put into public safety. I was not very pleased with that plan.
Yeah.
I wanted to not have an unrestricted dollar be a restricted dollar. At the end of the day, it was kind of a hybrid. We passed a budget that tinkered with revenue sharing, but also created two different pots. One for public safety and one for local roads. So communities can do creative budgeting. I'll give you a perfect example. Hazel Park, and I've represented Hazel Park in the past, and I've told, I've talked to the city manager about this. Hazel Park is a financially challenged community. It's just not a community that has abundant wealth in it, but it also doesn't have crime. It does, but they have managed their crime problem. They have kept low crime statistics. So a community like Hazel Park was on the most penalized end. They were gonna lose out on revenue sharing because they didn't have high crime. But they still needed revenue sharing to do local community services. So we created a local road funding pot and a public safety pot, and we can allow communities to do some creative budgeting. You know, maybe if they get money in the police department, they can take money out of the police department and put it and use it for other purposes. But we basically added one more layer. I did not advocate for this, but one more layer of communities to kind of work through. But if they need to take money out of the police department because their police department's funded, they have the ability to do that and put it elsewhere where needs are. So that is like a very good bureaucratic answer for you. We made it more
I was
complicated.
gonna say, can you make it more complicated by describing it as just do one time and ongoing?
No, you can.
It's fine.
We've delivered, most communities are now gonna be in the black, so most communities are actually gonna get more money out of this year's budget. The challenge is we've made it now more restricted, but we've given them the ability to make it unrestricted. I was not a fan of this, I was not a champion of this, I had many conversations about this, but when we went through every community in my district, almost every community made out better. And I had to call every mayor and city manager and supervisor and just say,
Right, yeah.
just take the money and then take it out of the pot once you pass your budget.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, this all happened in the budget process, right? So this is not like by statute, by law, you would have to do this every year, is that correct?
We did not lock the formula into law yet, right? I don't think
Correct,
we
we
have not
haven't
locked
done
this
the
for.
policy yet.
We haven't
So
done.
put that on the list for the next time you
Yeah.
get the.
Alright, Elvin wants revenue sharing trust
Vision's
fund.
project.
I also want revenue sharing trust fund.
I do too.
I do too.
So is everyone's eyes glazed over yet with that explanation? Alright, yeah.
Yeah, I would like to, some comment on the pros and cons of this American citizens voting. I was presented this, I think, when I went to Kroger's, and I was,
I have opinions.
just wasn't sure, it's quite complicated, seems like a lot of pros and cons there.
So I'm allowed to have opinions, and I will share these opinions with you. So we have a voter ID law in Michigan, and you know this because every time you go to vote, you're asked to present your ID. You are. And every time, when you register to vote, you have to affirm you're a citizen. Under many steps of penalties if you don't. And so what this does is it essentially makes it more onerous and makes the most restrictive ID possible in order to vote. So, it is a minuscule amount of non-citizens who vote. And it's happened under Republican secretaries of state, it's happened under Democratic secretaries of state. And it's found out, and these people are penalized. You know, this goes above and beyond, and I don't really know the dynamics of this specific proposal, but there is a proposal that is moving in Congress called the SAVE Act that essentially does enshrine that most restrictive ballot proposal, that most restrictive voter ID, I should say, that makes it so that your name must match your birth certificate.
I was gonna say, I think I'm the only person up here who's had a name change. When I got married, I took my husband's name, and as you can see, if a name has changed, additional documentation is required. Sometimes that additional documentation is expensive to procure and would limit many people who have changed their last names like I have.
Married
from
women
being
who have
able-
changed, or anybody, but I mean a whole group of our population, married women who have changed their last names, some of who I'm sure I'm looking at in this audience, would have to find documentation to affirm that they are the person on their birth certificate to vote. Even if their ID plainly says and plainly shows and is clear who they are. So, you know, I think this is it's kind of like a wild goose chase. You know, we have strong voter laws here in the state of Michigan that work. It is a de minimis amount of over many, many years out of millions and millions and millions and millions of votes cast over many years. This has happened tens of times. It has not influenced the outcome of any election here in our state. So that's my opinion on the ballot proposal.
I just remember sitting in Secretary of State last year for my real ID and hearing the number of people coming in saying, what do you mean I need a death certificate? What do you mean I need to bring in my marriage certificate? What do you mean I don't have a passport? That was just for the real ID, so everyone's gonna have to go through something like that for just to vote. And it was a few years ago, I believe it was my first term, they were putting together a proposal that your signature on your ID had to match when you registered to vote. So whatever your signature looked like at 18 years old, your signature now needed to look like that. And what they did is they put side by side the Speaker of the House, Jason Wentworth at the time, and the Senate Majority Leader, Shirkey, and they did their most recent signature versus they found their signature for when they registered to vote, and it was completely different. So it was scrapped, but I'm not sure if that's in this proposal or not, but
And let's go over the process. Every single one of you, by law, when you show up to vote, you are asked to present your ID. If you refuse, if you don't have it, you then are given a provisional ballot. And what that provisional ballot says, if in my precinct I show up and I'm Jeremy Moss and I don't have my ID and I am issued a provisional ballot, if another Jeremy Moss shows up with his ID, my ballot is challenged. So there is a process by which if somebody knew the precinct that Natalie Price lived in and said, I'm going to vote as Natalie Price, and then Natalie Price rolls up, that ballot is challenged. And the actual Natalie Price, her ballot counts. So we have a process by which to ensure that the right person who is the lawful voter in a given precinct, that only their vote counts. But you are all asked to show your ID. So back to the whole telling misinformation, I hear from folks that they are hearing from people circulating clipboards saying, this would create a voter ID law here in the state of Michigan. We have a voter ID law here in the state of Michigan, and it works.
And that would hurt people that marry multiple times.
Yeah.
I'm serious.
No,
or people like me who don't sign their name the same way every single time. And years ago, I ran into a problem with that because of, it was me, my signature, my ID. So they said, it's not the same. And I'm like, okay, I had a medical issue or something happened, so I'm not as steady writing or whatever, but it's a problem. Or either I would have to have all my married names on my ID, so, you know, I could be Gina blank, blank, blank. That's great.
Or you can get in a crazy accident and not even be able to use your right hand.
Or if you break your arm or something.
That's right, that's right. I have not even signed things for me yet because I wanna make sure my signature matches, yeah. Jamie?
Absentee ballots. I don't actually show, they send me an absentee ballot. Now I'm on the
Permanent list,
permanent list.
yeah.
So it just, you have, I guess I showed it once.
You showed it once, they have it on file, and even you know, your voter registration is linked to your address, and if you move and you tell the state you have a new ID with a new address, your ballot doesn't go to your old address, your ballot moves with you.
It didn't though. But you helped straighten that out.
Okay, well then we helped straighten that out.
We did. Well, it was the same address, I just moved apartment numbers.
Okay, and then maybe that was the
They kept getting
complication.
confused and
Yeah.
using the old number and.
But we straightened it out.
I could see that, yeah.
We straightened it out for you, yeah. All right, yeah.
Is there any updates on Rowan's Act to amend the Amber Alert laws that's currently it's been passed by the House and now in the
Did
Senate?
it get
It
out
passed
of
the
that?
House.
Okay, what, do you remember what committee it was assigned to? I know we've talked about this last time. I don't think it's before a committee that I
Oh,
serve on,
okay.
so I haven't seen it yet. Do you know the bill number? And it's okay if you don't, I can,
It was a Regis
I
bill.
can't remember it, but.
no worries.
That helps.
I'll look it up. It's been mightily quiet in the legislature. I'll tell you what's going on in the legislature because it's important. The Speaker of the House got mad at the Senate and said he wasn't passing any Senate Democratic bills. So the Senate said we're not passing any House Republican bills until that logjam gets broken. So it's been very challenging. The Speaker of the House driving this divisiveness has been very challenging even to get bills that passed overwhelmingly moving through the system. As I said, I have a bill package with a Republican that passed in the Senate unanimously that's just been sitting over in the Senate. So let me look up to see what committee it was referred to.
It's,
I have a bill that was
4517 and 4518.
4517. So this is in the Committee on Civil Rights, Judiciary, and Public Safety. I can talk to the chair, I don't serve on that committee, but I can talk to the chair about her, if she's taking it up. I see it passed 104 to 1.
Either Carr or Maddock.
Yeah, I'll talk to the chair of that committee, I don't serve on that committee or chair it, so, but I'll talk to her
I
about
have a
it.
question for the reps too. Are you aware of the 50-50 bills that were just introduced in the judiciary for presumption of 50-50 custody, and basically all custody situations, divorce and pension?
Is that the one with Gina Johnson? Is that the one we talked
Gina
about?
Johnson is the.
I didn't know it was officially dropped.
It's been introduced, yeah.
We've talked about this. When was it introduced? No?
No, we haven't talked about it, not this one, this one just came out,
It was,
after our last meeting.
Is that the one you emailed me about?
That's the one I
Okay.
it was around November 7th.
Okay. Yeah, I know Gina and I are, because we were gonna meet, we're working together on some stuff. Yeah, I thought it was the Gina bill, yeah.
'Cause
Looks
it's
like it
very
was referred to
dangerous.
judiciary
Okay. So
on
Sarah Lightner's
November
committee.
4th.
It's a dangerous situation for victims of domestic violence.
Yes. Yeah.
All right, yeah.
Well, as you're talking, you make me think, is there already conversations happening or appetite for the concept of discharge position rules in y'all's chambers? Like, it seems weird, right, intuitively, that the Speaker of the House can unanimously hold up a bill that would otherwise have overwhelming support, right? But as far as I'm aware, there's no process in your legislature by which you can force votes on things.
There should be.
Is there
There
appetite?
definitely should be.
How do you
So
make that
How do
happen?
we make that happen?
there is, it's just not followed. I'm trying to, so the Senate operates with incredible precision, and every vote is recorded, and every vote is allowed. And if the Republican minority or the Democratic minority, if the minority party asks for a vote, there's a vote. They may be on the losing side of it, but there is a vote. And I've been a part.
By norm or by like?
By the Senate rules.
We
The
have different
Senate, the
rules.
Senate operates
Correct,
with
yeah.
precision and follows the manual. The House does not.
Right.
And the House, I compare the difference, the Senate is like military precision and the House is like the New York Stock Exchange. It's just loud, it's chaotic, it's crazy. I served in both. And so the challenge is that over time, it's kind of like, over time, it's diminished session after session after session. Even from when I served in the House and I visit my friends, I'm in shock of how the rules have been diminished over time. It was very rare that the presiding officer, who sometimes is the Speaker of the House, but often the Speaker pro tem, gavels people down for what they say. When I served in the House, you could express outrage, you could yell, you could be angry, you could give a speech against something. These people can't do that.
The majority party does.
The majority party does, but when you serve in the minority, I served in the minority in the House, and there was the ability to express outrage and anger and opposition to something without the majority party trying to silence you. If they did this, and members, they do have members that do, they get gavelled down, told to be quiet, sit in their seat, and may not be able to talk for the rest of the day or week.
They took away all of our floor privileges one day.
Yeah.
No one was allowed to speak.
Do you know the movie WALL-E?
Yeah.
And you see over time how they go from human to these blobs that's what the House is. It used to operate in a normal way, and it slowly has, I'm not calling anybody here blob, but it's like it slowly, year after year after year after year, has become unrecognizable. That's the parable that I'm trying to say. So there is, if Rep. Price wants to bring something to the floor, she should be recognized, she should be able to call for a vote, and there should be a vote. But the presiding officer won't let any of those things happen. And over time, the process of the House has just diminished, and it's not a democratic institution.
So
The
what
Senate
If
is.
I understand correctly, and you know the historical background, but
Do you
part
agree or
of,
disagree?
I mean, they don't even have to recognize you
Right,
anymore. You
right.
could go up to take your name off a bill and they don't even recognize you. So your name could be on a bill
And
that
we-
was completely changed, and your name is now on something that says Trump is the greatest human being of all time. Because you can't take your name off of it.
I'm the president pro tem of the Senate, and there is literally a button at every senator's desk to speak. And if your name is on that list, I, by the rules, have to recognize you.
So what is the mechanism by which House rules get changed? Like,
So-
I assume you need a majority.
So
first of
years
all, but
ago,
then
years
what?
ago,
You
there
have to be
was,
recognized.
there was, years ago, there was a lawsuit that Democratic, it's even before I served in the House, there was a lawsuit that Democratic members in the minority took into court that said, we're not being recognized, we're not being heard. And the court, which I have to say, state plainly, was stacked with Republican judges or conservative judges, said it is the prerogative of the presiding officer of the House on how to recognize members. And that's it. How to count votes, not count actual votes, but how to recognize members who are opposing something. It is the prerogative of the Speaker pro tem of the House.
And I think that's really important too, because, we hear from you guys all the time, why didn't you co-sponsor this legislation? Or why did you co-sponsor this legislation? And a lot of it is, we have to be very careful on who and what we're sponsoring, because we know that the presiding officer in the House could change it and not recognize you. So you can put your name on something that is completely changed in committee and may never come to, the only way you can take your name off of something is after it's passed out of the chamber. So there could be a bill sitting there for 2 full years on something that was completely changed that you can't take your name off of it. So that's why a lot of times people will reach out and be like, why, I saw your name wasn't on this, why wasn't it on there? Because these things happen, and we're getting a little smarter in the House Dems to be careful of what we sign.
Multiple states. They had a thing on TV about this.
Really?
It was, it was instigated in Tennessee, I believe, where they actually not only wouldn't let them talk, but when they tried, they actually kicked them out and they had to be re-voted by their constituents. So they had a
Didn't know you could do that.
thing talking about it, and it was much more than just
Yeah, I don't
Tennessee,
think we
they
can do
talked
that.
about other state, you know,
Right.
all the problems in different areas.
Yeah.
So add that on the list.
Yeah,
Change
put
the
that on that
rules when
list.
you,
Yeah.
add that on the list. to
Yeah.
Change the rules.
And we'll have to wrap up soon, but I wanna make sure everyone's question is heard, so yeah, go ahead.
You know how I am here about family court,
Yeah.
and I just want y'all aware that this is a statewide issue, it's not just your representatives. Another mom has been arrested. She was going to drop her kid off at the exchange site. The child did not want to go with the father. The police were there, documented everything. Everyone decided just let the child go, we'll figure it out in court. She filed the correct motions, procedures, and stays and all that, and said, can we just try and figure out what the issue is and just forego the other parental rights so that we can figure out what the issue is with this child. Instead, she was arrested.
Oh, shit.
This is in Kent County. I emailed you about this a little while ago. The thing is that mother came and talked at Bloomfield Library. She has not seen her children in over 2 years. And that father gets to walk away free and cost her 6 figures. There are great issues with the front of the court across this state. And one of them is you can't get rid of the damn judges that suck because of the Michigan laws on judging, which is one of the things I emailed you about. Can we at least put something in there that states if you don't receive 51% of the votes, you get off the bench?
Did my staff get back with you?
No, not to my knowledge. I will
Okay.
check my email.
Because I know I talked to them about you to make sure that that got sent. I'm gonna send them a message.
I want to just add something about that woman who was just arrested, the mom. When I spoke with the family, and they said that initially the judge put in a contempt of court, which is, you know, what you would usually have to go into court and show cause that you're not in contempt because you tried to deliver the child to the other parent, and the child was unable to go, which I've been through multiple times with my kids. But the Kalamazoo police wouldn't pick her up on that because it's a misdemeanor. So the judge then changed it to parental kidnapping, which is a felony, so that they would go pick her up and arrest her, and then she was transferred to Kent County as a Kent County judge.
Wow.
So like, we need to do something. There has to be some repercussions. These judges have immunity. And if anyone wants to sign the petition, it's justice4rachel.org.
Thank you. Was there another, you have a final question? All right, Jamie, get the last word.
I brought up a week ago, Jason and I talked, and he was talking to a couple of my neighbors, it's actually more of a, you just consider it a total scam. We can only pay, and you know the apartments, by mail. Even if we pay, you know, you put it in the mail 3-4 days ahead of time, or even a week sometimes, it doesn't always get there.
Yeah.
There's no alternative, they won't accept any alternative payment. You can't drop it off at an office, you can't do anything else.
You're talking about like to pay your rent?
Pay your rent.
I see.
Yeah.
So they're collecting hundreds of dollars and there's no leniency. It's like, if it's not there on the first, forget it.
Yeah.
I actually now go to the post office, have them send it and take a picture of it.
Yeah.
That day,
Yeah.
which is a pain
Yeah.
because I had twice. It was mailed in plenty of, I thought in plenty of time. Now, mail's gotten a little bit better, but I just received something last week that was sent more than 2 weeks. And then a lot of times they don't get, like some people, like even if I play it on my social security check, I only get that days before sometimes, especially if it's, like the one issue was with the, and they already sent me a thing, the Labor Day week because of the weekend. They said I did, but I had it stamped and a picture of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, my office is looking into it. We're reaching out to groups to see what's the best option to try to address that. And just, just going through the list of, do we require other forms of, other options for dropping off your rent? Do we require like postmark? Do we, what are some of the things that we can do to see if we can alleviate that? Seems like a easy thing, but.
Or a common sense thing.
Yeah.
Common sense
Yeah.
thing. And I know,
Amos
what
O'Neill has a
Jocelyn-
package of renters' bill of rights, that there might be some overlap here.
Yeah.
There is a
see
bill
this-
in there that is about requiring online payment options.
one of the options Jocelyn Benson was talking about, and she increased the ways you can pay for state thing like your license and give more options.
Yeah,
Which is great, but we should have that.
yeah. I know that there's.
Locally, the city council said they don't think they have any.
Probably not, it'll probably have to be something Jason shares with the rest of us. I know there's at least somebody in this room that can talk about how the federal administration has attacked the postal service and has made it more challenging for postal operations, right, Gina?
Yes. And even
No, you're kidding me, right?
Right.
No, no.
She's being sarcastic.
They're talking about dismantling, privatizing, and turning.
Post
it over-
office?
Yes, turning it over to the Department of Commerce.
Yeah, they've been trying to do this
So
for-
they're making a profit-making entity instead of a service entity, which is what we are.
Shitting.
I kid you not.
It's crazy too, because the postal office, like, freaking in the Constitution, it's
Trying to
crazy to me.
get proclamation now, but
Yeah.
the post office has been in existence for 250 years in July. And when trying to get proclamations and trying to keep the service up, of course, it's serious. Yeah, it's serious.
Oh my God, I just,
If you need to know something about the post office, this is my expert right here.
That we have now, how we got rid of the joy. The one we have now is even worse because he's from FedEx, I believe.
what?
Conflict of interest, but anyway, he's our postmaster general now. And also, they're removing machines, they're closing post offices and trying to get like a central distribution area for all the mail, like say, so in Michigan, all of us would have
Trying to
to
do
maybe
it
go
with FedEx and
somewhere
have it go
else
from Memphis,
to get
Tennessee.
the mail.
And even at the post office, by the way, when I go in, and I've gotten to know them because now
You pay every month.
they actually say, I'm surprised nobody's reported the scam.
Well, Jason's on it, so we'll,
Well, I trust Jason. so-
yeah, we'll look
They
to
gave me two, yeah, looking into it, well, one was either to go to one of my representatives statewide, or Dana Nessel.
yeah, yeah,
So-
I go to Dana a lot.
Huh?
I go to Dana for a lot.
yeah.
So I'll start with Jason. because-
Start with Jason. We let each legislator do their projects, but Jason will share his work with the group, and we will support it.
Yeah.
All right, that's all we got, but I think we're doing this again next week in Bloomfield.
Yep.
So if you want to come join us in Bloomfield, we'll be there at the library at 5:30 next Monday. All right, thank you, everybody.